Ah, bollocks.
Okay guys, welcome to this week's Friday Waffle. I am coming to you on Friday evening. I've not changed my room, I've just changed where I'm sitting. I normally face that way. But as you probably could tell with the last couple of waffles that I've done, I'm really high tech. I have the phone sitting on top of the TV. It's in a case and I've got a hard drive as a heavy weight to kind of hold it. But what tends to happen is it ends up kind of pointing down the way or pointing up the way, which means that all you can literally see is my head sort of thing. So I thought we'd try something a wee bit different. I've just got the phone balanced against another TV I've got in here. So it's all high tech in this place. So yeah, I trust you've all had a decent week. I've had another busy week at work. I'm glad it's Friday. I really am. My colleague has been off on holiday, so I've been covering for them. Excuse me at the moment, which is always plus. You're trying to do your own job as well, and things are just mega hectic. But it tends to be the way the world these days. I think everybody at work's mega busy. So very quickly, I've got a lot of questions to get through today, so I'm going to run through things as quickly as possible. I had my pedal for Scotland last Sunday, I think it was, Glasgow Green to Edinburgh Royal Highland Show place. Really good, 46 miles. I found it actually fairly easy. I was a wee bit, I wasn't worried because I'd cycled round Arran 6 months before, which is 55 miles, and it's very, very hilly. So I wasn't concerned, but I must admit I found it fairly easy. And it's cycling is a hell of a lot easier than running, that's for sure. So it was good, really good day. So quite pleased to get that done. I had my computer club this on Friday, not Friday, on Wednesday again. Always good fun, really good fun. Another good turnout as well. So I did stick a wee video of some footage on whatever date it was earlier this week. So that's that. Gaming wise, what was I playing? I was actually playing my Amstrad. In fact, here it's here. Here you come. I was actually playing this. That's my Amstrad GX 4000, I think they call it. Yep, GX 4000. I've got one of these. It's got a little cartridge slot at the front here. I've got one of these SD things. Now, some very, very clever guy has actually converted Amstrad CPC 464 games to run in this thing, so there's now about 400 games that work in it. So I was playing that last night, really good fun. Yeah, and I was also playing, what was I playing? I was playing something else. Can't remember what it was, doesn't matter. Right, couple of things. Mystery boxes. Now I watch Stuart Ashens, like a lot of people, really good YouTuber, very entertaining. And he does anyone that doesn't watch him, if you don't watch him you need to go and watch him, he does these unboxings of these like mystery box things. Now the most famous one is a company called Loot Crate, and basically you pay X amount of money each month and they send you a box full of surprise items. Now they say that the items are worth more than you're paying for it. Which I'm not really convinced. At the end of the day, something is only worth something to you if it's something you actually want. I mean, I'm not interested in cricket, so if somebody sent me a cricket bat, it doesn't matter if it's the best cricket bat in the world, it's completely useless to me. So Loot Crate is the sort of the most famous one. There are other versions. I mean, I think Loot Crate is it's USA only, although you can get them imported to the UK. Now my daughter, she has been on at me about getting Loot Crate for herself, and I had a look and they're wanting something like 30 quid a month, and I'm like, no, it's not happening. Now I don't really, as much as I understand the fun part, I mean back as a kid we used to have a thing called a lucky bag, and it's exactly just what it says. It was a little paper bag, and it would contain some sweets, and it always contained a wee toy. I mean, the toy was like a spinning top, or I think the lucky bag was about 10 pence, so that was called a lucky bag. You didn't know what you were going to get, but I used to love getting them as a kid. So this mystery box thing is effectively a lucky bag for adults. But at 30 quid, that's a lot of money. It's not 10 pence. And watching Ashens opening these things up, it just got me thinking. I don't understand, as much as I understand the appeal of them, the price is just ridiculous. I mean, half the things that you get in them, you're like, don't use, won't use, not interested. I mean, they give away all these pop things, you know, the pop figures, which I've got quite a few of. I've got Star Wars ones, but they just give away this random tat. You get a t-shirt, different bits and pieces, badges, and if it was £10, I would probably sign up to it for my daughter, because she would really like that. But I'm not spending 30 quid for something like that. I mean, if you think about it, if you're spending 30 quid a month over a year, that's 12 times 30, well 10 is 300, that's 360 quid. That's the price of a bloody PlayStation Pro. So over a year you're getting all this shit that you've got no interest in, and you've, you know, spent 360 quid. Obviously if you're in the States you're getting a wee bit cheaper, but I've just wondered what other people make of these things. Is it something you've ever bought before? One of these mystery boxes. I mean, when I was at in this Insomnia gaming event thing last month, or whenever it was August, the end of August, there was a stall selling, well, it was like a mystery box. It looked like the box was based on one of the blocks out of Mario Land. You know, it's got it's a yellow with a big question mark, and it was a box sort of that size. And again, it was 30 quid, and they said that the value of the stuff inside was 60 quid at least. And you also had a chance to win, I think it was a PlayStation or something, whatever it was. But I was watching some people opening theirs, and again, it's just fully shit. I mean, maybe added up, it may come to 60 quid, but if you're getting stuff that you've got no interest in, then as far as I'm concerned, it's a complete waste of money. So I'm just wondering what other people thought of these things. Have you ever bought one? I know there's different versions. I think there's like UK versions of them as well, but if they were maybe £5-10 tops, I would maybe, you know, get them. But for 30 odd quid, you know, I just think it's utter waste of money. But I'm interested to know what other people think of it. Right, sorry, I am rushing this, guys. I'm just conscious I've got that much to kind of get through, which is great because I'm getting lots of questions, which is really, really good. Right, gameplay over graphics. I mentioned I was at the computer club on Wednesday of this week, and there's lots of really good machines for us to play, but I ended up spending, I wouldn't quite say half the night, I ended up spending a good hour with one of my mates, Dave, playing the ColecoVision, or it wasn't the actual real ColecoVision, which I've got sitting there. It was the ColecoVision, whatever it's called, I can't remember what it's called. It's the new one that came out a few years ago. It's got like 60 built-in games. It's actually pretty good. Chameleon, I think it's called. And this thing, we were playing Miner 2049er, which I'm going to put up there. Yeah, you can see it running. That's the game up there. I'm going to pretend I've got a blue screen, so I'm actually looking at this thing. Now, you know what? If I'm getting this wrong, I'm going to look really stupid. Anyway, yeah, that's the game. It's either there or there. I think the game's going to be up there. Now, the game looks absolutely shit. It's got the shittiest graphics this side of shitdom. It really is shitty looking. But you know what? Fantastic game. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, myself and Dave, we've got, I don't know how many different systems, all the latest systems, old systems, and we sat and played this game, taking it in turns to try and see if we could get through it. And it just hit home to me just how the power of gameplay will always beat the arse of graphics any day of the week. I mean, you think a lot of your third-person shooters, which is very, very common now in, you know, your PlayStation 4, and you strip away all the graphics, take away all the graphics, you're basically left with a really simplistic game. And the thing about a lot of modern games now don't get me wrong, I do struggle with some games. A lot of the games, like, you know, your Sonic Adventures, your sort of 3D Sonic games, there's very, very little skill in playing some of these games. Don't get me wrong, your stuff like Call of Duty, I mean I struggle in these modern games quite a lot. But it just got me thinking, I'm not doubting there is skill to play these games, but do you get satisfaction out of completing a modern game? I mean, I've not completed that many games over the years, but I have completed a few, and I've got to say, when I get to the end of a modern game, I don't really get any sense of achievement. It's more like, thank God that's over. Yep, if you're thinking I have changed, it's because I've done the absolute biggest jump cut ever by a couple of hours. I had to dash away, hence I've now been out of run and since I recorded the first bit of this. So anyway, what was I talking about? I can't actually remember what I was talking about because it was about 2 hours ago that I started this waffle. I'm talking about graphics over gameplay, and the point I was making is, I certainly, from a personal point of view, I don't get any satisfaction out of completing a modern game. It's more relief, I think. I'm looking at the camera, it's at the other side of I've switched the thing around. Yeah, I think with me it's more relief. I don't get any sense of achievement completing a game. I don't think you would ever tell your pal, oh, I completed a game, and he'd say, oh, well done. You'd never ever say well done. But if you told somebody you'd completed Manic Miner or Chucky Egg, or I don't know, you got 200, a million points in Robotron, that's like a badge of honour. That's something that you're proud of, because the older games, it's all about the challenge. It's not about the graphics. It's all about the challenge, the accomplishment of getting to a certain level. That's why in the arcades you got to put your name in. You know, there was guys who were really good at arcade games, and they got to put their name in, and they were looked upon as kind of heroes, you know, within the arcade. So yeah, going back to what I was on about, this game, Miner 2049er, it's got some of the worst graphics this side of the land of worst graphics, but it's got gameplay to kill for, and to my mind, that is special. What made it extra kind of special was my mate Dave at the computer club. We were sitting shoulder to shoulder, taking shots, you know, playing two-player games, taking shots to see how well we could get on, you know, egging each other on. So that's something that you just miss. You just simply do not get nowadays. You know, yeah, you do get multiplayer with headphones, but being able to sit beside a pal and encourage him and, you know, talk about tactics. Well, if you go this way first and go up the ladder and jump over there, then you'll do that. That's something that you just simply don't get nowadays. And that is why I enjoy these old, really, really, you know, crusty games. They may look shit, but they play ace. So anyway, let's batter on. As I said earlier on, I've got tons to go on. So that's my thing that I was going to talk about, the things I'm going to talk about now. I've got a few questions here. Kicking things off, Tony Walker, he's one of my mates. Tony also goes to the computer club, although he's not been for a wee while. Tony's asking, what's your favourite modern add-on for old school machines? Mine is probably the EverDrive, great bit of kit. Really good question, Tony. Now, I love original hardware. I mean, you can't beat playing a game on an original piece of hardware, but what I can't be arsed with is fanning about with tapes and discs and all that kind of stuff. I simply don't have, because I've got so many machines, I don't have the space for all these different, you know, for the discs and games and that kind of stuff. So I've got a lot of these. I've got an EverDrive for my SNES, Mega Drive, Game Boy, all these things. But what's my favourite one? I couldn't put my finger and say one particular EverDrive. I love all these things. I mean, in my Amiga, I've got a 4 gig RF card, which has virtually every single Amiga game ever released, and it's basically like a hard disk. So I've got that. I've got an SD card thing in my BBC, again with every game ever released. The Atari, I've got a cartridge. I've also got a floppy drive emulator. My C64, I've got the Ultimate cartridge. Spectrum, I've got an SD thing. So all these machines, I've got these kind of devices. It just makes it so much easier, and having the ability to play any game that you ever want and loading instantly is fantastic. But if I was to really push out and say what is my, I've even got one for the Vectrex. I mean, I've got this thing here. That's the Vec Multi-Flash. I can basically put any game on that I want. Lovely bit of kit. If I was to pick my favourite one, I would probably go for the Ultimate 2 cartridge thing for the C64. It does everything that an EverDrive does, but it also emulates discs, it emulates tapes, it can play cartridges. It's like an all-in-one, one-stop solution for the C64. It turns the C64 into just this epic machine. You've got everything there at your fingertips. It even plays SID tunes as well. It plays tapes. You get all the proper loading music and that kind of stuff. So it's a fantastic cartridge. So I would go for probably the Ultimate cartridge for the C64, Tony. But I love all my EverDrives. All these different cartridges. They really open up a system. You know, you don't have to piss about with discs and that kind of stuff. So you're getting the best of both worlds. Instant loading, complete collection of games, but you're getting to play it in the proper hardware. So thanks, Tony. That's a good question. Right, Mr. Down the Rabbit Hole. Kev, what is he asking? What do you think about the fact that a Mario Endless Runner is coming out for iPhone and it's going to be free, which is very odd for Nintendo to allow, given he's the biggest mascot? Would today's kids who experience this as their first Mario game not expect his other games to eventually, for the NX to also be free? You know what, I was really surprised. I went on to the App Store to look for something, and I saw an advert for this Mario Endless thing, and I was really surprised. I was very, very surprised. I mean, Nintendo just don't give away free games. I mean, Sony don't give away free games. Microsoft don't give away free games. Sega never gave away free games. So why are Nintendo starting to do this? I mean, they've obviously seen a market. They've obviously realised, there is money to be made in this. I mean, obviously it kind of started, well, as far as I'm aware, this Pokemon Go thing. I believe that's not owned as such by Nintendo. But yeah, the Pokemon Go is completely free. So I was quite surprised, like probably like a lot of people, to see a Nintendo franchise I should say, appear on a phone, a normal mobile phone. So yeah, it's an interesting line that they're going down with this Mario Endless Runner. I mean, I've seen a kind of video of it getting played, and it looks pretty good. It looks really, really good. Will that change the perception of kids expecting other games to be free? Thing is, Kev, I think with the introduction of like the App Store, people's perception of how much a game is worth has changed. Before the App Store, before mobile phones came along, you had to buy games. You didn't get games for free. You had to pay money for games. Now in the 8-bit era, it was £5-10. Then the Amiga 16-bit games went up to 40 quid, and now you pay 40-50 quid for a current console game. But with the advent of app stores, tablets, mobile phones, you can quite literally build up a really nice excuse me, just had my dinner. You can build up a really nice collection of games for completely free. Obviously you've got the in-app purchase thing, if you want to buy coins or upgrades and that kind of stuff. But it's interesting. I'm quite sure Nintendo know exactly what they're doing with this. It's an interesting line that they're taking. Nobody ever thought that Nintendo would start giving away games for free. So yeah, watch this space. It'll be interesting to see just what actually happens. So yeah, another good question, Kev. What do you think of Apple removing the headphone jack off the iPhone 7? I'm not sure if you watched my waffle last week, Kev, I know you normally do, but I did talk about that at great lengths. I don't see any technical reason for them doing that other than what can we change? Let's take away the iPhone jack. I don't see it taking up much space. I kind of get the feeling they've invented something that doesn't need to be invented. You know, people have got good headphones, and yeah, you can use your headphones. I think they're going to give away an adapter with it, but I kind of feel that Apple are struggling slightly for new features, so they're coming out with a feature that really does nothing, doesn't bring anything to the table as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not happy with it. I'm not happy. I mean, I couldn't really give two shits, to be honest with you, but I don't see that as being a forward step for Apple. Don't know. Time will tell again. There are many examples in classic gaming of manufacturers removing features. For example, the red Nintendo Wii missing GameCube support. I didn't realise that. Or the Atari 2600 Junior shipping without paddle controllers. Is Apple following these retro examples, or are they forcing people to throw away their old wired headphones and upgrade? Another thing that I was going to say the PlayStation 3 used to support, used to be able to run Linux on it, and then that they didn't actually bring out a new model, they just brought out, I think, an upgrade to it, and they done away with that. But yeah, I think the reason that like the Nintendo Wii didn't support GameCube or the Atari 2600 Junior didn't include paddles, once I've brought out a console for a while, you know, they want to obviously think, well, how can we make this cheaper? So what can we do away with? What things can we take away that people aren't bothered about? And that's why you get a lot of people who get very, very upset when the PlayStation 4 doesn't have any backwards compatibility. You can't play PlayStation 3 games on it, you can't play PlayStation 2. People get very upset about that, but I don't see it as being a real issue. Apparently, they have to, it's all these machines, it runs under emulation, so you know the quality of playing older games isn't the greatest. If you want really, really good, perfect playability with older games, then they would have to kind of build in hardware into the machine, which would probably push the price up. And let's be honest, 99% of people that buy a PlayStation 4 is not remotely interested in playing a PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2 or PlayStation, you know. It's only guys like ourselves that would, you know, it would be nice to have sort of thing. But it doesn't bother me, because if I want to play a PlayStation, I can just go to CEX and pick up one for 20 quid, or go to eBay, whatever it is. So that doesn't really bother me. Anyway, Kev, yep, thank you very much for your questions, mate. Always appreciate it. Right, Retronic Collector. Apologies, Tony. I can never pronounce your username. Tony's asking, what's your favourite PS4 game and why is it your favourite? Now, I don't have many PS4 games. I mean, I'm looking up at my collection there. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I've got about 12 games. I've also got, obviously I've got, what do you call it? I've got multiple games that are on the PS Plus thing. I'm not I don't play many games on the PS4, Tony. So it's hard to say. I can only go by the games that I've actually played, and I would probably have to go for The Last of Us, which it's a phenomenal game. I mean, I played it and completed it on the PS3, and it's not that much better, I don't think, in the PS4, but it's an awesome game. I would probably have to go for The Last of Us. I mean, I'm currently playing Doom, which is good fun. It's pretty difficult, and I also love Grand Theft Auto 5. Not so much as a game, but I just love the whole open sandbox environment. I love just doing stupid things, but it's a console I don't play all that often, I have to say. But I would go for Last of Us. Out of the few games that I've actually played, I would need to go for Last of Us. So thanks for the question, Tony. Number 2 by Tony. Do you consider yourself more a collector of consoles, systems, a gamer, or both? Now, I have always maintained I am a gamer. I've never bought anything just for the purpose of collecting it. I would never ever buy something just to have so I don't use it. I always buy stuff to play. I always think a good test to see if you're a gamer or a collector is if you had the chance to buy a game, a boxed and complete for, I don't know, say some rare game for maybe 30 quid, or you had the chance of the game, the cartridge on its own for a tenner. What one would you go for? I would go for the £10 one because I'm only interested in playing the game. I'm not, I'm really not too fussed about a game being in a box. It's nice, it's a nice little plus if it's got instructions and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I always see myself as a gamer first and foremost. I buy games. I have a rather quite a nice collection of stuff here because I've got, I do have a lot of stuff, but I always buy things to use them. There's nothing that I've bought, well, apart from maybe one computer, that everything that I buy to use. I would never ever, I can never ever understand people who pay stupid money for complete collections of games, shrink wrapped, never been opened. What is the point of that? A game is to be used. So I never ever understand why somebody would want to collect stuff and never actually play it. So I'm definitely a gamer who happens to have quite a decent collection of stuff. And the last one by Tony, what do you think of pay-per-view subscription services like Netflix? I think they're great. I don't watch TV. I really don't watch TV. I watch the very odd thing. Most of my sort of viewing is YouTube, I have to say. There's just everything there. You can watch anything on YouTube. But Netflix is awesome. Really good. I mean, I watched the Stranger Things, which is sort of doing the rounds at the moment. It's a fantastic TV programme. I think Netflix are great. I mean, we currently pay about 130 quid a year for BBC, which is what, I don't know, we pay about £12 a month for the BBC, whereas, and half the stuff I don't watch. Netflix, tons and tons of stuff for 6 quid. So I am all for pay-per-view subscription services. I think they're really, really good value. So thanks for that. Right, battering on very quickly. I'm just going to see how much time. I've got about 10 minutes of camera time. Acidonia 150. What do you think is the worst port of a non-arcade game you have played? What do you think is the worst port of a non-arcade game? Right, so it can't be an arcade game. What's the worst port of a non-arcade game? Oh, so in other words, what's the worst port of another existing game? Bloody hell, that's a tough one. Ooh, let me think. What game was really good on another system and it's shite on another one? God, that's a tough question. That's a really, really tough question. I mean, there's been some games on the Spectrum. I mean, Cobra on the Spectrum is an awesome game, and on the BBC and on the C64, it's absolutely shit. Really, really bad. But that wasn't so much a port. That was just its own version. I'm trying to think. I'll tell you one thing that I suppose Whizball on the C64 is an absolutely sublime game. It's a fantastic game. It's one of my favourite C64 games. Probably one of the best C64 games technically ever made. Super playable. The 16-bit versions of it just aren't as good. It should be good, but it's not. And another game actually which is kind of similar is Microprose Soccer, which was written by Sensible Software actually, who also made Whizball. And the 16-bit versions should be a lot better, but they're just not. And it's the same way, I suppose. In fact, you know what? It's quite unusual. This sensible soccer on the app on the Commodore Amiga is just awesome. It's an amazing game, and the port of it onto the 360 and also the PC does not hold a candle to the Amiga. So I think that kind of tells its own story. I think what we can derive from that is, when a developer makes a program from the ground up for a system, they know that they've got all the sort of expertise and knowledge to make that game the best possible. But sometimes they don't. They'll bring an in-house contractor in to kind of do a port. So yeah, I would say Sensible Soccer on the Amiga is awesome. Rubbish on the PC. Microprose Soccer on the C64 and Wizzball on the C64 are both awesome games, but the 16-bit ones are pretty pish. They're just not a patch in it. So yeah, an interesting question, quite a tough one. And the second part of this question from Acidonia 150: what modern game do you think has terrible ideas and that just hurt the game? Note can be a good game, just one with bad, annoying gameplay parts that... Right, okay, what modern game do you think has terrible ideas? Right, so what you're saying here is, what good games have some silly bits in it? Yeah, I can't think of any game offhand, but there's been games in the past. In fact, I'll give you an exact example of one. I'm a big fan of like the tennis golf games by Nintendo. I mean, the golf on the Game Boy and tennis on the Game Boy, original Game Boy, are both brilliant games, really, really playable, super playable. Then they brought out the similar versions for the Game Boy Advance, and I thought, awesome, they're going to be really good, better graphics, better game. But what they do is they bloody put all this kind of RPG stuff, people talking to each other, you're constantly hammering the fire button to get past it. And it's the same with like Metal Gear Solid. That's a really, really good game, but the thing that killed that game for me is all the cutscenes. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. So yeah, games that put too much cutscenes in just ruin it for me. I'm not a fan of cutscenes. Don't get me wrong, a minute or so of it maybe helps to kind of explain the story, but games that just have virtually unskippable cutscenes, that just kills the game stone dead. So anyway, listen, thank you very much for your questions, mate. I appreciate that. Brian C. Now, Brian C, to anybody that doesn't know him, I think he was probably my second or third subscriber, and he's somehow stuck with me. So cheers, Brian. Appreciate you still hanging in there. Brian's asking, do you think iPads and MacBooks will lose their headphone jacks? I can live without a headphone socket on my phone. I think it's only a matter of time, Brian. If the iPhone 7 doesn't have it, I think later MacBooks and iPads will definitely follow suit. So I think that's a given. So thanks for the question, Brian. And finally, Retrohawk, ever reliable, Mr. Retrohawk. What do you think of remastered and remade games? Personally, I think it's good as long as they're done well. Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I've played some remakes and sometimes I think to myself, well, it didn't add anything. I mean, what's the game? I played the remade Resident Evil 4, which is one of my favourite games, especially in the GameCube and Wii. They remade that for the Xbox 360 and it didn't add anything. Yeah, it was slightly nicer graphics kind of thing. I think it's good. I mean, can you imagine, I don't know, could you imagine like some older game being remade, brought up to date? I mean, one game that I wasn't a fan of was Strider. Strider's an excellent game, it's an excellent arcade game, and they redone that. They brought it, it wasn't so much an HD remake, but yeah, it was a new game kind of based on the original, and I didn't enjoy it. I really didn't enjoy it, and it's the same with Bionic Commando. That was remade for, I think, the Xbox 360, and again, it just wasn't good. But I think if it's done properly, I think sometimes you find they redo these games and the gameplay is just never quite as good as the original. But you know, I don't know. Sometimes, I mean, on the Xbox 360, all these arcade games, you've got like Scramble and Track and Field, which is a favourite of mine. Now, they've kind of redone, you've got the option to play it with original blocky graphics or the option to play it with redone graphics. And playing it with redone graphics just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. It's always got to be the old school graphics. So, again, I think if you've never played the game before, you know, it's going to open up games for this generation. I mean, kids aren't going to maybe want to play an old PlayStation game, whereas if they brought out a game with nice shiny graphics, it's opening up the game to a new audience. It's a bit like, I suppose, remaking. I mean, they remade is it Ben-Hur as well, which you know, that's always going to happen. You get remakes of films, so I suppose it's the same with video games. It's companies' ways of bringing old games to a sort of new audience. So yeah, if it's done well, I don't see the issue with it. And the second part of the question, are there any up and coming games you're looking forward to? I can't wait for Gears of War 4 and the Crash Bandicoot remaster on PS4. Also rather curious about the new Sonic game. Honest answer, no. I don't use my PS4 or my Xbox that much. I really don't have any interest. I don't follow new games that are coming out. I just don't do that. I mean, that No Man's Sky, whatever it's called, I didn't even know anything about it until I started reading bad reviews of it. You know, so I really don't get myself involved in new games. I can't say there's any game that's coming out that I'm thinking, oh, I can't wait to get that, because I simply don't. I don't look at any websites with new games. Not because I don't enjoy new games. I just have other stuff. I would rather watch a video about ROM cartridges than watching the latest I don't know, presentation on the new Gears of War. That's just me. That's because I'm an old bloke. So anyway, talking about old bloke, it's always time for my bed. Cup of Ovaltine in a hot water bottle and get to bed. So anyway guys, that is it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a nice weekend. As usual guys, thanks for everybody supporting the channel. Really good. Over 900 subscribers now, which is just quite mental. Really hope I can get to 1,000 subs for before Christmas. I've already been giving it some thought as to what I'm going to do. I've never done any landmark subscriber special, but I definitely want to do something for 1,000. I think 1,000 subscribers is pretty mental. So yeah, I'm planning to do that. So as usual, I say thanks for all the support, all the comments. I mean, this week's been awesome with the questions. I really appreciate it. Please keep doing it because it gives me something to talk about. And finally guys, thanks very much for watching.